Okay, so question one, supply and demand graph. Two things happen. You're talking about your simultaneous supply and demand changes. So draw your equilibrium start point. Okay, due to increased subsidies, there is an increase in dairy farmers, and due to unfavorable economic growth, income per household has decreased. Okay, the effect of the subsidies is larger than the effect on income. All right, so read the question carefully. Okay, so if you are dealing with an effect of subsidies being larger than the effect of the lack of income, start with an income change rather. So start with your decrease in demand. Obviously, decrease in demand, we shift the demand curve to the left. P1 is lower than P0, Q1 lower than Q0. Then for your increase in subsidies, because I've told you it's larger, make the movement much greater. Okay. So you guys see that. Discuss your answer. All right, so like we said, subsidies, income are exogenous variables. Therefore, shift the curves. Income decreases demand, subsidies increase supply. All right, so with a decrease in demand and an increase in supply, you will have a definite effect on price. Which is a decrease. And now, obviously, because they've told you that the subsidies is larger than the effect of the decrease in income, we can again say that there is a definite effect on quantity, which is an increase. Okay, only because your supply has moved by a greater amount than your demand. All right. Okay, I'm sure you guys are cool with that now. Any questions? All right, question 2, calculate the equilibrium price and quantity. All right, so obviously on your supply and demand graph, that's where they are equal to each other. That's where they intersect. In this case, you just need to equate your two equations. QD equal to QS. QD is 1,800 plus 0.6p equals. All right. So take your price over to the other side. You got 0.8p is equal to 7,200 minus 1,800. So you should get an answer of 5400. And if you divide 5400 by 0.8, you should get an answer of 6750. All right, then to get your quantity, you can substitute your price into either your quantity supplied or quantity demanded equation. Because they are obviously equal to each other, you should get the same amount in either of those equations. All right, so QS is equal to 7200 minus 0.2 times 6750. And you should get an answer of 5850. 0. Too many of you are writing and not ticking. What's going on here? Do you guys understand that one? All right, your elasticity questions. Okay, in this case, they haven't specified that you need to use the arc elasticity formula, so I didn't. If they do want you to use the arc elasticity formula, they will specify, okay, using the arc method or using the arc formula. All right. So in this case, Burger Boot decreases the price of hamburgers from 40 to 35 Rand. Quantity demanded increases from 800 to 1150. Calculate the price elasticity of demand. Your equation EP is equal to change in Q times price, change in price times quantity. Okay? Substituting it in. The new quantity, 1150, minus the old quantity, 800, multiplied by, now your price and quantity over here is your original price and quantities. Okay. So price was 40 bucks. Right, 350 times 40 is 14,000 divided by minus 4,000, and you should get an answer of minus 3.5. You guys get that? Any questions? Right. How can Burger Boot increase its total revenue from hamburgers based on the price elasticity of demand? Right, so what do you know about that price elasticity of demand? Negative 3.5, which means that when price changes by a certain percentage, quantity demanded is going to change by 3.5 times that percentage. Quantity demanded changes by a greater amount than price. Okay? So in other words, to increase their total revenue, Burger Boot should decrease the price of their product. Okay? Because if they decrease the price by 1%, right, quantity demanded will increase by 3.5%. Right? Therefore, total revenue will increase. Right. So this is not part of your answer, but just to explain it to you, total revenue is equal to price times quantity. So what we're saying here is decrease the price by 1%, and quantity demanded will increase by 3.5%, which is obviously greater than 1%. So overall, this is increasing, so therefore, total revenue will increase. Okay. Right. Question 4. Income increases from 12 to 16,000. Demand for petrol increases from 40 to 45 liters. Okay. So what do you know here? Income increases, demand increases. You're going to have a positive answer for your income elasticity of demand, meaning that it is a normal good. Right. Income elasticity of demand, changing Q times income, changing income times quantity. So your change in quantity was 45 minus 40 times your original income of 12,000. And you should get an answer of 0.375. Right, so obviously positive answer because it's income elasticity and it is a normal good, right? Then the next question, based on income elasticity of demand for petrol, explain what type of product this is. Now, because your income elasticity is equal to 0.375, petrol is a necessity product. Why? Because your income elasticity is between 0 and 1. Okay. I'll probably go one step further and say petrol is also a normal good. Because of the positive answer in your equation. Right. Question 5, table. Obviously, you're going to have to complete the table and then answer those missing values. So if your total cost is 1,500 for 0 units of production, now variable cost only starts from the first unit of production, meaning that if your total cost is 1,500 for 0 units, variable cost is 0, therefore your fixed cost is 1,500. So D is 1,500. Okay. Remember, your fixed cost plus your variable cost is equal to your total cost. Now, you can work backwards because they gave you your total cost as 1,568 for 2 units, and you know that your fixed cost is 1,500. So 1,568 minus 1,500 gives you 68 as your variable cost. Right. I've told you that your marginal cost is 18 when we produced the 4th unit, which means 18 plus 1,590 is 1,608. And that is your total cost for the 4th unit. So I was cool with that. Then for value B, your average cost, remember average cost is total cost over quantity. They've given us our total cost, 1,590. 1,590 divided by 3, and you should get an answer of 530. And the last value C, we're calculating the marginal cost, which is your change in total cost, from 1,568 to 1,590, and you should get an answer of 22. You guys all cool with that? Right, the multiple choice. Economics is the study of using scarce resources to satisfy unlimited wants. Question 2, given the following PPC curve, remember if you're producing on the PPC curve, you are efficient and attainable. Outside the PPC curve, unattainable. Within the PPC curve, inefficient. All right? So, which point shows efficient use of resources while which point is unattainable? Point B is unattainable, and point A would be efficient use of resources. Narnia is currently producing 8 ships, but decides to increase the production to 12. What is the opportunity cost? Remember, opportunity cost is whatever you have to give up. So they're saying they're currently producing 8 ships, which means they are currently producing at point E. They want to increase their production from 8 ships to 12 ships, which means they're going to move from point E all the way to point A. And in order to do so, they need to decrease the production of swords by 6,000. So the opportunity cost is whatever they have to give up, and in this case, that is the 6,000 swords. Question 4, what is most likely to happen when there is an influx of workers to Narnia? When you have an influx of workers, you're increasing your production capacity, okay? Which means that on the graph, you would shift your PPC curve outwards because you can produce both more ships and more swords. All right. So point B could become attainable as we shifted the curve and started producing on the curve at point B. Which of the following is a positive statement? Remember, positive is fact, normative is opinion. So it would be number 4. Which one of the following is not one of these central economic questions? Central economic questions: what should we produce, how should we produce, and for whom should we produce? So who will produce these is not a central economic question. What type of economy is South Africa? It is a mixed economy. All right? So we got a market system, but we got substantial government intervention, which makes it a mixed economy. Which of the following about production, income, and spending is true? Remember, production, income, and spending are always equal to each other, and they are occurring at the same time. When you sell your natural resources, what is that? Land. On the factor market, what type of income will you receive? Land earns rent. You need to know the different incomes for your different factors of production. Which of the following can be a real example of the arrow labeled A? So firms are buying factors of production on the factor market, so they are spending money here. Which of the following can be a real example of arrow B? Households buy goods and services on the goods market, so they would receive food. Which one of the following illustrates the law of demand? Remember your law of demand. If the price of a product decreases, the quantity demanded increases. So Jacob buying 1 shirt, but when he saw it was on sale, he bought 2 shirts. Question 13. Which of the following is most likely to happen during a drought? Remember, a drought is one of your supply side factors. Okay, so it affects your supply curve, and obviously a drought is a negative impact, so supply will decrease. And because it's an exogenous factor, we shift the supply curve. All right? So there will be a decrease in the supply of vegetables. All right. Not in the quantity supplied, because that means we move along the supply curve. All right. Question 14. Which area represents producer surplus? Remember, producer surplus above the supply curve and below the market price. All right? So that is 0 PME. Your consumer surplus, on the other hand, would be over here. Consumer surplus, area underneath the demand curve and above the market price. Okay. Socks and shoes are complements in consumption. What will happen to the market for socks if the supply of shoes decrease? Pretty logically, supply of shoes decreases. Less people have shoes, less people need socks. The demand for socks will decrease. If socks and shoes are complements in consumption, what would be their cross-price elasticity of demand? So we've got the price of shoes that increases, the quantity demanded of shoes decreases, and then the demand for socks decreases. You can see these arrows move in the same direction, which means you use them together. But we're not looking at that. We are interested in the relationship of the demand for socks and the price of shoes. And we can see that those arrows move in the opposite direction. That is a negative relationship. So it's got to be number 1. You guys cool with that? What is the difference between cardinal and ordinal utility? Cardinal, you can place a numerical value on the utility of the product, but ordinal utility, you can only rank them. Okay. Did you guys manage this question? Was this all right? So when the law of diminishing marginal, when does it set in? Here's your marginal utility, 105 for the first unit, 90 for the second unit, so it sets in from the second beer. What is the law of diminishing marginal utility? As soon as marginal utility starts to decrease, that is when the law of diminishing marginal utility sets in. All right. And you need to know your definition as well. As more and more of a product is consumed over a specified period of time, the utility gained will increase by less amount. Okay, increase by decreasing amounts. What is the cost of beer and steaks respectively? All right, so if you've got your marginal utility and you divide it by the price of the product, you equal your weighted marginal utility. Okay. So now you just need to work your way backwards because they've given you your weighted marginal utility and your marginal utility. So you've just got to work to your price. So starting with beer, and you can take any unit, it doesn't matter which one you take. I'm just going to take the first one over here. So for beer, your marginal utility was 105 over the price equals a weighted marginal utility of 7. So the price is equal to 105 divided by 7, and price should equal $15. Right. Same thing for your steaks. Just again take the first unit here. For steaks, you had a marginal utility of 100 divided by the price is equal to 2. Price of steak is 50, price of beer is 15. Which of the following combinations will maximize utility if you spend 160 Rand on beer and steak? Remember, to maximize your utility, you need to spend all available income. So you're going to spend the entire 160 Rand. So if you look at the table here, now you can use your weighted marginal utility. You don't look at anything else because your weighted marginal utility already calculates the per Rand value that you get, the per Rand value utility that you get from these two products. Okay, so you can ignore everything else. Obviously, we can see here that for your first unit, you can get 2 or 7 units of utility per Rand value. Obviously, you're going to buy a beer first, 763. All right. Only for your fourth unit of consumption can you see that your weighted marginal utility is now actually greater for steak. So you're going to buy a steak. Is this making sense? You guys following this? Right, and then we can see for the next purchase, they've got the same weighted marginal utility. So it wouldn't matter which one you purchased. We purchase another steak, and then we purchase another beer. And if you had to calculate the prices, it's 15, 15, 15, 15, 50, and 50. And that together would equal 160 Rand. Did everybody understand that? All right, so then your answer should be 2 steaks and 4 beers. All right. Jonathan is a plumber. He employs 2 workers and has some capital. Okay. Now, remember, your short-run production is when at least one or more inputs to production is fixed, usually capital. We can vary labor. Okay? So when we move into the long run from the short run, it means that we varied capital. Okay? So making a profit? No. Time it takes for him to employ more workers? No. Time it takes for him to buy another van. Why? Because capital is increasing. All right, so that's when we move from the short run to the long run. Okay. 22, Hannah quits her job. She had a monthly salary of 22K. She received a total income of 75,000 when she started her new business, but had total costs of 52,000. What type of profit did she make? Okay. So firstly, we know that she made an accounting profit. How do we know? Because the cost was 75,000 minus the 52 equals 23,000 accounting profit. Did she make an economic profit? However, remember, economic profit includes the opportunity cost. So what was the opportunity cost? She gave up a salary of 22,000. So to calculate whether she made an economic profit or not, you need to subtract your 22,000 from your profit, and that gives you 1,000. Positive, which means that yes, she's made both an accounting and an economic profit. All right, 23. All right, so like we said, 10 steps to make the product. 10 laborers. So when you hire the 11th laborer, you see the law of diminishing return set in. Which one of the following cost curves does not have a shape that is explained by the law of diminishing marginal returns? Your average total costs. In perfect competition, remember your assumptions for perfect competition: many buyers and many sellers. All right, so it cannot be 2 or 4. So that all buyers and sellers are price takers. Okay, they accept the market price set by supply and demand. While in monopolistic markets, there is only one seller, making him a price maker. 26. If a firm in a perfectly competitive market sells goods for 10 Rand and the average fixed cost is 5 Rand, average variable cost is 7 Rand, which one of the following is correct? Right? So currently they are selling the product for 10 Rand, but their cost of production is 5 plus 7, which is 12 Rand. All right, so they're losing money on this unit of production that they're selling. All right, but The shutdown rule is only if the average variable cost is above the selling price, which in this case, obviously, it's not above the selling price. So what they need to do is they need to increase their output in order to compensate them, gain from economies of scale, until the cost of production is below the 10 Rand, when they reduce the average fixed cost. Does that make sense? Okay. So they are making a loss, but should increase production in order to make a profit. What is the profit maximizing quantity of output? I said it about 14,928 times during our lectures. Marginal cost needs to equal marginal revenue. At the point where marginal cost equals marginal revenue, that is the profit maximizing quantity of output. Okay, so they've told you that the market price of the product is 200. What do we know about perfect competition? The market price is equal to your average revenue, which is equal to your marginal revenue, which is also your horizontal demand curve, or your price line. Okay. So you need to produce a quantity where your marginal revenue is equal to your marginal cost. Now, what is marginal cost? Change in total cost. Here's our total cost. What did total cost change by? 200. What is the price of the product? 200. So marginal cost equals marginal revenue. So this company needs to produce 101 units. Use the figure below and answer the question. What is the question? The firm is making what? Profit or loss? Okay. So we can see obviously that they're making a profit here. Why? Because they're going to produce at a quantity where MC is equal to MR, which means they produce and sell 725 units. But the average cost at 725 units is only 115 when they are selling at 145. So to calculate, and this rectangle would be the profit of the firm. Now, to calculate the profit of the firm, 145 minus 115 is equal to 30, multiplied by the 725 units that they sell, and you should get an answer of 21,750. So it would be an economic profit of 21,750. How do we know it's an economic profit? Because we said that in the long run, firms earn zero economic profit. Now we know that this is the short run because in the long run, the average cost would be at that point. Okay. What will happen in perfect competition if any firm is making an economic profit? If any firm is making an economic profit, okay, in the long run, new firms will enter the industry so that the market supply curve shifts to the right. The supply of the product will increase, which will decrease the price and erode that economic profit that the firms are earning. Which one of the following statements about the goods and labor market is correct? Households create the supply in the labor markets. Remember, households own the factors of production, one of them being labor, which they obviously sell on the labor market. John received a 5% increase in her daily wage, but prices in general increased by 7%. Remember, your equation real is equal to nominal minus inflation. So your nominal is 5% minus inflation of 7%, which means that there is a real decrease in income of 2%. So yes, Joan did receive an increase in her nominal wage, but a decrease in her real wage because inflation was greater than the increase in her nominal wage. Which of the following will cause an increase in the supply of labor? Now they said increase in the supply of labor, not quantity supplied. So you know it is not a wage change. Why? Because a wage change would increase or decrease the quantity supplied. You would move along the supply curve. Remember, on your labor market, you've got wages on your y-axis. Okay. So it's got to be a non-wage determinant. And in this case, better benefits for workers will shift the supply curve to the right. It will increase supply. Which one of the following is not a characteristic of a competitive labor market? When workers have fixed contracts, preventing them from changing jobs. Remember, free movement of labor is one of our assumptions of a perfectly competitive labor market. Which one of the following statements about the diagram above is false? With the imposition of WM, the supply curve for labor will not shift outwards. We will move along the supply curve. We will not shift the supply curve. All right. And finally, 35. Workers are likely to have more bargaining power and negotiate higher wages with employers if they are more skilled. Okay, anything that gives workers an advantage will increase their bargaining power. All right.